All right, welcome everyone. Today, we're taking a tour of the human body, but not the one you learned in school. We're skipping the basics and jumping straight into the really specific, kind of scientific, and honestly, just cool names for all the parts that make you, well, you. Ready? Let's get into it.
So let me ask you something. Ever heard of your glabella? What about your hallux? If you're drawing a blank right now, don't worry, you are in exactly the right place. And trust me, these are just a couple of the really cool terms we're going to uncover today. So it only makes sense to start our tour right at the top, right? The head. It's basically the command center for, well, everything. And it's packed with parts you look at every single day, but probably don't have a specific name for.
Okay, for our first one, go ahead and touch that smooth spot right between your eyebrows. Yeah, right there. What do you call that? I mean, you see it every single day when you look in the mirror, but does it have a name? That spot, it's called the glabella. And here's what's so great about this one. There's a little bit of irony baked right into the name. It actually comes from a Latin word that means smooth, which is kind of funny when you think about it, because that is exactly where frown lines love to show up. A little anatomical humor there for you. Okay, now let's zoom in a bit and take a closer look at the eye. We all know what an eye is, but let's get specific. You know the colored part? That's your iris. And that little black hole right in the middle that gets bigger and smaller, that's the pupil. And what about the white part, the part that surrounds the iris? That has a name too. It's called the sclera. All right, let's take a quick little detour for a fun fact. You ever wonder about dimples? Turns out they're not just some cute little indents. They're actually caused by a split in one of your cheek muscles. Kind of weird, right? And that's exactly why not everyone has them. Okay, back to the tour. What about that little groove, you know the one, that runs from the bottom of your nose down to your upper lip? We've all got one. Any guesses on what it's called? That little groove is your philtrum, and it sits right on top of another feature with a great name, the Cupid's bow, which is just that double curve on your upper lip. So hey, you get two cool new vocabulary words for the price of one. Let's take a quick look inside the mouth now. You know that little dangly thing hanging down at the back of your throat? Yeah, that thing. Well, it's called the uvula. And it's not just hanging out there for no reason. It actually helps you swallow and even make certain sounds. All right, let's move on down the body. We're heading from the head into the torso, which is pretty much the central framework for everything. So a lot of body parts have like two names, the everyday name and then the more scientific one. Take your collarbone, for instance. Its scientific name is the clavicle. And your shoulder blade? That's called the scapula. And honestly, knowing these can be super helpful, especially if you ever have to tell a doctor exactly what's going on. And speaking of that whole shoulder and back area, that big kind of kite-shaped muscle that covers your upper back and neck, that's the trapezius. Now, if you've spent any time at all in the gym, you've definitely heard its nickname. Everyone just calls them the traps. Okay, here's a number that might just blow your mind. When we're born, we have about 300 bones. 300. You might be thinking, wait a second, that sounds like way too many. And you'd be right. Because as we grow up, a bunch of those little bones actually fuse together. And that's how we land at the final adult number, 206. It's just a wild example of how our bodies are changing from the moment we're born. It's this incredible framework that holds everything else up. So, we've got the framework, the skeleton. Now let's talk about the parts that actually get that framework moving, our arms and legs. A lot of the time, when we're talking about limbs, we're talking about big muscle groups that work in pairs. So, in your upper arm, you've got your biceps on the front and your triceps on the back. Simple enough. And it's the same idea in your legs. Your quadriceps are the big muscles on the front of your thigh, and the hamstrings are on the back. They're basically partners that help you bend and straighten everything. Here's a cool one with a little bit of mythology thrown in. That super strong tendon at the back of your ankle, it's called the Achilles tendon. And yep, it's named after that Achilles, the Greek hero from the stories who is basically invincible except for one tiny spot, his heel. Pretty cool story, and it makes the name really easy to remember. All right, we are nearing the end of our anatomical tour. For our last stop, let's go all the way down to your feet. We've all got a big toe, but what's its fancy, scientific name? It's called the hallux. I think this is so interesting. You know, we just call the little one the pinky toe, but the big toe gets this special, unique scientific name all to itself, the hallux. So, wow, we have covered a lot of ground, haven't we? From the glabella on your forehead all the way down to the hallux on your foot.
But you might be thinking, okay, this is cool trivia, but why does it actually matter? Well, let's talk about why this isn't just for trivia night. Knowing this stuff can be surprisingly practical. Think about it. Being able to tell a doctor exactly where something hurts with precision, or talking to a personal trainer about your goals and actually using the right terms for the right muscles. And beyond all that, it just gives you this new, deeper appreciation for the absolutely incredible complex machine that you get to live in every single day. And that brings our tour to a close. So I'll just leave you with this one final question to think about. After everything we've talked about today, what part of your own body will you never see the same way again?